welcome back to another episode of Sports with LM10. And yes, I'm not LM10. He was just there now. But because this topic, it has so much history around it, you need different inputs on it. So now, for the episode today, the question is the football world moving away from, history clubs to money clubs? And the reason why I asked is we've seen the latest with Newcastle happening, whereas they have, the Qatar investment group coming in, and the football world is kind of tricky about it. Teams don't want to now start negotiating with Newcastle in terms of players that they want to buy in January. So the question now starts. You look at your Leeds, your Nottingham Forest, where they're falling from glory. These teams have they've won Premier Leagues, they've won Champions Leagues, but nowhere to be found right now. So you ask yourself, how is the world changing when it comes to money? We've seen the PSGs, the Man Cities, but we'll start with Chelsea. I think you could say in the main eye, Chelsea was like the first club that came in with the real money, where Roman Abramovich, when he took over Chelsea, he got Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho is like, I want this player, I want that player. I don't want that player, I want Didier Drogba. Get me Didier Drogba, whatever. We're going to offer him 2 Champions Leagues later. Can you argue with that decision now? I don't think so, I think in a day and age, you could say since 2010 to now, they've kind of won the most trophies. The Premier League, they've won it a few times. Like I say, 2 Champions Leagues already. So then you start to wonder, let's say 20 years from now, you look at it, you won't be saying, Roman, when he took over, he changed the world. You'll be looking like, that was a good investment from Chelsea's side. So then we're going to move away now to Man City.
Yes, Man City. That's what we're going to be talking about. Their owner, Sheikh Mansour, coming from the rich Arab countries. So if we look at what Man City is today, they're probably one of the best clubs in the world. But if you look at their history, I'm just going to rub my hands and give you time to process that, because they don't have history. They literally are one of the clubs that literally bought their success, I know people may argue like, but in the early 30s, 40s, 50s, they were a good club. Yeah, they bought their success, they're literally an oil club. With all due respect, they bought their success. If we look at Pep Guardiola alone in his spell of about 5 years, he has spent close to £1 billion. £1 billion spent. So that is literally buying your way to the top. It's depriving clubs like, for example, clubs with rich history like Aston Villa, like Nottingham Forest, which have 2 Champions Leagues, and Man City has 0. You understand? So that's the topic today. History versus money, which is more important? On the face of it, obviously money, because it gets you what you want. Like Ezra already mentioned, that if you look at Chelsea, they were like the first English club to set out that blueprint that if you want to be successful as Man United, as Liverpool in the past, as Arsenal, you have to compete. And the only way to compete is in the transfer market. So if I can get the best players along with the best coaches, I have to spend money. So Man City took that blueprint and they took it all the way to the top, because the investment they've made are staggering. They've spent billions upon billions just to get 5 Premier League titles, FA Cups, Community Shields, those cups. But still 0 championship, 0 UEFA Champions League, trophies, because at the end of the day, I feel history is more important. Why I say that? Because it sets out the foundation for a club. Teams like Liverpool, not because I'm a Liverpool fan, but teams like Liverpool, they'll tell you, back when Bob Paisley was still our manager, back when Bill Shankly was still our manager, we were winning, we were doing this is our culture. Man United as well, back when Sir Alex was there, even before Sir Alex, we were winning, we were doing this. With Man City, it's like, back when Yaya Toure was there? Yaya Toure was there 2015. So back when, you understand? So history is too important, because it sets out the foundation. It sets out what type of club you're going to turn out to be. If you cross over to Spain and look at the 2 powerhouses in Spain, Barcelona, Madrid, of course they're guapping. Of course they have money. But with money, they have history. They start with Real Madrid. If you look at their history, they have probably the proudest history in footballing history, Going back to the days of the late Di Stefano, Francis Puskas. They won 5 Champions League in a row. The first club to do that. So their blueprint was laid down way before we got the first Galactico, which failed to win any Champions League. But the history has always been there that we want to be the best club in the world, regardless of whoever's competing against us. And with Florentino Perez joining, one of his first statements was, if we want to win, we have to outscore everyone. And to outscore everyone, we need the best players. So that is his blueprint. But of course, Florentino Perez is a billionaire, so he can get whatever he wants. And the recent investment that he made, which proves my point that sometimes history and money can coexist. The recent investment that he made, we saw, he invested 700 million euros into the new Santiago Bernabeu, which is going to generate €1 billion back every year. So that's very good business right there. So you can see that history and money can coexist, but at least Real Madrid has history, you know? And that's the point we're trying to show, that some clubs just have money, zero history. You understand? And if you look over to their arch rivals, Barcelona, they also have a proud history, decent history as well. And the problem with Barca is they've just been chopping and changing too many of their board directors, man, and their owners. So it's people with different ideas, different monies coming in. So their history right now is a bit tainted because they haven't been winning for a good while. The last Champions League trophy came in 2015. So we don't know when Barca are going to win. They just announced Xavi coming back as their new coach, which is good because I think they're going back to their culture that Johan Cruyff set out, their blueprint, because everything they've done after Pep Guardiola and Luis Enrique hasn't really worked, one may argue. So they're going back to their roots, which is good. Again, history is what we are talking about. So if clubs like Man City have to go back to the roots, which roots are they? And I'm not taking any shots. We're just trying to show you the difference between money and history. But they can coexist, and Ezra is going to walk in and close it off for us.
And now just to close it off, right? There is this one club that's just all about money right now. They have your Mbappe, they have your Neymar, they have your Messi, and Di Maria, and Verratti, but where's the end product to it? You know, that's where now we start looking at, if you don't have history, if you don't have, you know, when you're building a house, there's always has to be a foundation. Before you build this mansion of yours, you need that foundation right. You know, you could say, oh, but they had Ronaldinho, oh, they had Ban. But how many teams have always produced quality? There's always quality from somewhere else. You look at a Jack Grealish, he comes from Aston Villa. They have history. You know, there's so many players that you can pick from certain clubs, you know, that have become now world stars. I mean, Lionel Messi was not really a Barcelona product. He was really good in Argentina, and he flew down there. Obviously, we know the history of that. I'm not going to get into that one. But you can see that there are clubs that will always produce quality. Just because Ronaldinho used to play for PSG does not mean they have a solid history. That doesn't mean they have a solid foundation, you know. So you start looking at the PSG and you see what they're trying to do, and it's not working out. You know, I think the furthest they've come was like the Champions League they lost against Bayern Munich, you know, and unfortunately they lost. And Neymar was crying like a baby. But bro, look at the history of the club you're playing for. You know, you were at Barcelona, the history was there. You know, we could say you could have taken over from Messi, but you know, that's a topic for another day. So in closing it, let's just also bring it locally, right? A lot of people have this argument with Sundowns. Is Sundowns just money? Is Sundowns just history? You know, you look at it, Sundowns actually has a foundation. You know, it's a good foundation for them to build it. But the coming of Purchase Motsepe is like a Chelsea situation where, yes, they have won, you know, a league here and there, but the new age when they got Purchase Motsepe, and now the money started coming in, whereas the money is not dependent on the brand when it comes to Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs, where the money comes from the brand of the club. Whereas with Sundowns, the money comes from the owner. And that's the difference that we're trying to show you guys, that with certain teams, their success is not because of this thing. It's because of the foundation that was laid years back, and that people have come in, the coaches have come in, have built from there. That's why certain clubs, you end up saying all out, because you don't understand what is he trying to do when the foundation is there. You preach foundation, but it's not there. What you're trying to do is not there. That's why you end up saying Baxter out, because yes, in his first stint, he did the right thing, but football has moved away from what you used to know it as. You know, history, we've seen, man, like, we've seen with so many coaches that come into play with certain clubs, they try certain things. Barcelona that Lumko just spoke about, they tried, they legend. It did not work out. They had to go get Xavi, you know, someone who knows actually the history of it, someone who comes from La Masia, who knows how it's like coming from there and being this superstar, staying in one team, understanding the philosophy that was built and the foundation that was built. But in closing, history will always win, man. No matter what, you know, you can be a Royal AM coming in and buying your status. It's not gonna change anything, bro. You know, even 20 years from now, your history will be you bought Bloemfontein Celtic. That's your history. And people, when they think about it, they'll even, you could say they will have a bit of hatred in them because of the history that Bloemfontein Celtic had. Because you have nothing. I mean, your club is called the Royal Anilempisan. So anyway, before we troll them, shout out to you for watching until this point. Don't forget to tell a friend that we are back. Subscribe, comment, like. Tell us, man. History, money. As an Arsenal fan, you have to say history. You have no other choice. You know, your own is rich, but your history is the one that's holding you guys together. But anyway, should I say all of you guys, man? Peace out.